Patrick Mahomes wins the third Super Bowl. Brock Purdy showed he is good, not special. This is from the Herd, Colin Cowherd. We are doing our, wow, hold on a second. Jason McIntyre with the mustache of the century. We are doing our Super Bowl recap with Colin and Jason McIntyre. Let's go ahead and break down the game.
The difference between good and great at quarterback is you don't really have any answers for great, a Brady or a Mahomes. You just put in great effort and you hope. For good quarterbacks like Brock Purdy, you have an answer. It's called spags. It's called blitzing on big third downs. And it worked.
I mean, I think this is much bigger than Purdy or Mahomes. Or it's not bigger than Mahomes, but it's bigger than was Purdy great? Or if Purdy would have been great, would the Niners have won? The Niners had every chance to win the game. The fact of the matter is Patrick Mahomes is absolutely inevitable. The fact of the matter is you can't give a Patrick Mahomes-led team an inch. Same with Tom Brady and the Patriots. You know, when you thought you had them, you thought you were 10 points up, you thought we got it, we're dominating the line of scrimmage, we're doing this right, we're doing that right. You give them an inch, they will take a mile. Patrick Mahomes had no right to win the Super Bowl this year. No reason the Chiefs should have even been there, much less come back from down 10 and win this game. Patrick Mahomes was the leading rusher for the Chiefs in this game. His leading receiver was Mecole Hardman. I mean, he was only like 20 yards away from having more rushing yards than Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey had an all-time Super Bowl performance. Something like 80 yards receiving, 80 yards rushing. And Patrick Mahomes, not Lamar Jackson now, Patrick Mahomes almost outrushed him in the biggest game while throwing for over 300 yards. I mean, it's unreal what Patrick Mahomes did this season and did in the Super Bowl. He truly is inevitable. He truly is like the new Thanos. He is the new Tom Brady, where if it's a one-possession game, if it's a close game at the end, take Mahomes. Just like back in the day, you would take Brady. Beating teams like that, beating teams, these dynastic teams like Tom Brady's Patriots and Patrick Mahomes' Chiefs, it takes such a monumental effort. It takes everything to go right. Everything. And if you make mistakes, you just have no chance. They're winners, they're champions. One of the most impressive seasons I've ever seen from a quarterback what Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid orchestrated, you have to tip your cap to. It is the definition of excellence.
Time and time again. As great as the 49ers defense was, and Bosa and Warner and Armstead brought it yesterday. They were dominant.
I mean, the 49ers defense is all right. I mean, this is not the 49ers defense that I think people are used to. It's not. Steve Wilks is taking a lot of flack. I think Wilks was terrible late in the game. I think he was terrible in the last drive. I mean, he has been bad this year. He's been bad in the playoffs. I mean, Steve Wilks in this defense, I'd be stunned if he's the DC next year. I really would. So this was certainly not an incredible Niners defense, but the defense did play good. Kansas City's defense, this was definitely the best KC defense Patrick Mahomes has had. And, man, they were hitting. I'll give you that. The first half of this game was not very exciting, but, man, there was some defense being played, some hits happening, some collisions. It was really just an excellent game. Like, overall, the Super Bowl, I thought was an excellently played game. I thought, it's knee-jerk reaction. We're filming this the morning after, but I could hear the argument that it was probably one of the best Super Bowls of all time. Just the way it played out, the two teams we had, the narrative, the story, the finish, it had everything. Had unbelievable coaching, unreal play design, unreal execution from individual players like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Christian McCaffrey, whoever else. It had trick plays, it had fourth down conversions, it had a comeback win, it had overtime, it had 2 record-breaking field goals, it had an unbelievable halftime show. Really good stuff. I mean, really, 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 really hard to beat this Super Bowl. Had an unbelievable venue. Vegas was fantastic.
They had no answer for Mahomes late. His final 4 drives, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. Ball game, champions again. And on 3rd and 4th down, Mahomes, it's hard to describe. It's better than you could hope. Blitz him, he'll burn you. Man-to-man, he'll scramble. Zone.
I can't stand these written monologue things. Like I feel like I'm listening to like a sermon. I got to wax poetic for a second about Andy Reid and the play design. The 4th-and-1 play design, I have goosebumps. I actually have chills right now. I don't know if you're going to see that. I have chills thinking about the play design. It was a thing of beauty. The 4th-and-1 where Patrick Mahomes does it's basically like a read option with Travis Kelce. Kelsey's going in motion. It's just strict. Mahomes is just one person, right? Mahomes is trying to decide, okay, do I dump it to Kelce or do I just run for the first down? It was a play that was built so perfectly for that moment. And this is like one of those things where if you're a team and you're like, let's say you're the Saints and you have questionable coaches and questionable play calling, things like that. And you think about some of the plays that you've seen run on 4th-and-1, 4th-and-2, where it's basically just a play. It's a play that you're running that has it's just like the 4th-and-2 is like a backdrop. This play was tailor-made for this situation. It was tailor-made for 4th-and-1 in that spot. It could not fail. Impossible to fail. You wouldn't run that play on 3rd-and-8. You wouldn't run that play on 3rd-and-3. You wouldn't run that play 3 times a game. You're going to run that You're going to run that play once a season in that situation. I mean, that is what makes these teams so good. Same thing with the play that they scored the touchdown to win it. It was the exact same play they ran to score the touchdown to beat Philadelphia. Do you see them run that play on 3rd-and-6? No. You see them run that play in that moment. It's built for that moment. It was just a thing of beauty to watch two teams that were so well ready for the moment, just so well prepared for the Super Bowl. I mean, there was fumbles, there was interceptions. Like, yeah, there was some of the variability that that we see in football, but that's football. The ball is oblong. It's not round. So that's always going to be there. But I thought it was a fantastic Super Bowl. I thought it was really well played. It wasn't 55-54, but it certainly still had all of the narratives that you would want in a big game.
Try it. On the last 2 drives, every time Mahomes had the ball, he converted. In the 4th quarter and overtime. You ever notice with Mahomes, the first 3 quarters, it's all data feeding into his brain.
Yeah.
And then in the 4th and overtime, he uses all that information to beat you.
It really does kind of look like that, where the first couple of quarters, he's just trying to figure things out. He's trying to figure out it's almost like a boxer, like trying to find his reach, trying to figure out the jab, trying to time everything. And then once he's ready to roll, he goes into hyperdrive. I mean, Travis Kelce had 1 catch at halftime, and then all of a sudden he ends up with 9 catches and 90-something yards. And he was probably a touchdown away from being MVP. So Patrick Mahomes really is kind of, the Chiefs are kind of like that, where they're taking, and man, if you watched me during the Saints season, you will know how much I talked about the inability of the Saints coaches to adapt and adjust to the game flow, to see what was going on in the field and then change and adjust throughout the game. The Chiefs are the prime example of that offensive and defensively. Spagnuolo completely adjusted to the Christian McCaffrey situation, started run blitzing all over the place, and ended up holding Christian McCaffrey to 3.6 yards a carry. Spags changed everything because of how the game was flowing. Andy Reid and the offense changed everything in the second half compared to what they were doing in the first half. And they changed things on drives depending on what happened the previous drive. Like, they didn't just come into this with one singular game plan and roll it out there. I'm telling y'all, this is what makes a good team in today's NFL. It is exactly like chess. Exactly like chess. You have to see the board state. You have to react to what's happening. At a certain point, you have to adjust. You can go in there, have your openers, have your written plays and all that stuff. But at a certain point, you have to react to the board state. And that's what the Chiefs did. And San Francisco didn't react appropriately to their own detriment. If they would have reacted to the board state and said, you know what? We're up 10. We're going to feed Christian McCaffrey nonstop after the second half. But they didn't. They went 3 and out a couple times. They were throwing the ball over the place. They allowed Kansas City to hang around. And maybe they adjusted too much to Spags' adjustments. I don't know. But just what a Super Bowl. I mean, really, what a performance from both teams, but specifically from Patrick Mahomes. What a job.
Time and time again. More pressure, more efficiency. More intensity, bigger plays. In overtime, he was 8 for 8 and 27 yards rushing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with Brady, where if it was 3rd and 7, you knew he was getting it. You knew it was going to happen. How it was going to happen, who knows? But you knew it was going to happen. And that's what Patrick Mahomes is all about. Same exact thing. 4th and 1, I had no concern that they weren't going to pick it up. 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, whatever. You know he's going to get the job done. I mean, you could feel it. I'm not even a Kansas City fan. Like, this isn't my team. This isn't my quarterback or anything. But I could feel it through the TV. Like, okay, I was calm. It was the overtime to win the game, a drive in overtime. And I'm watching it. It might as well have been preseason. Mahomes was calm. The Chiefs were calm, methodical. McCall Hardeman and was it Justin Watson? Like these guys that he just drugged to the championship. Crazy. It's really crazy what we just watched.
Mahomes had 69 of the 75 yards on the game-winning drive. And again, Fred Warner was unbelievable. Nick Bosa was dominant. Chase Young, Armstead, sack. Steve Wilkes, I thought, by and large, dialed it up. I have never watched a Super Bowl and been sadder for a losing team. Yes, I had Kansas City, but Christian McCaffrey was great. I thought Shanahan was clever.
Yeah, Shanahan was clever. Shanahan was good. He maybe too clever. Another cool thing about the Super Bowl was that up until the final touchdown, about 6 different people could have been MVP. If the Niners would have won, Christian McCaffrey, let's say the Kansas City Chiefs don't score on the final drive, McCaffrey's probably the MVP. If the Niners would have scored a touchdown on their first drive in overtime and it would have went to Juwan Jennings, he's probably the MVP because he would have had, two catching touchdowns and a passing touchdown? So he's probably the MVP. If Travis Kelce catches the final touchdown from Mahomes, Kelce's probably the MVP. And then Patrick Mahomes is the one who actually did win MVP. If the game doesn't go to overtime, Harrison Butker was in legit contention for the MVP. If Butker kicks a game winner at the end of regulation or something, he might win it. With about 5 minutes to go, everyone from a kicker to a quarterback to a running back to a no-name wide receiver to a tight end all could have been MVP of the Super Bowl. That very rarely happens. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, at the end of the day, yes, he should have been Super Bowl MVP. I was holding a 20-1 Travis Kelce MVP. And man, if Kelce would have scored that last touchdown, whoo, baby, we would have been in business. But he was absolutely deserved it too. But that was another great storyline.
Bosa was unblockable. Steve Wilkes, I was concerned. He delivered.
No, we did not.
San Francisco outplayed Kansas City for large chunks of this game. That's undeniable.
Agreed.
But I said it 2 to 3 weeks ago. I've never seen anything like Mahomes, and I watched the NFL in the early 70s. Brains, composure, accuracy, athletic.
I just thought about this. You know what would be interesting? I don't know what. I'm just making stuff up now. But Creed Humphrey, the center for Kansas City, for some reason his snaps, like he's been snapping the ball low all season long. Wouldn't it be just the ultimate storyline if Jason Kelce somehow found his way to be the one snapping the ball to Mahomes next season? Wouldn't that just be about as poetic as it gets? And I know we're just kind of making stuff up here, and but that's all I could think about during the Creed Humphrey performance in the Super Bowl. So many low snaps, so many just balls rolling on the ground. Patrick Mahomes basically playing shortstop before he can play quarterback.
Coach ability. It's insane. Then you add to me the best offensive coach since Bill Walsh and maybe the best tight end. Everything else you just figure out. What's really discouraging for the rest of the NFL, this was the year to beat them.
Yep, this was it. I was just about to say that. This was the year. This was, no doubt about it, their weakest moment, salary cap-wise, offensive line-wise. They had some injuries. They had problems all over the place. The schedule, everything. This was the year. Now, everything opens up. Now, salary cap gets more manageable. They can bring in players. This was the year where they had to take a step backwards to remanage everything. Now they can go get T. Higgins. They can go get an actual wide receiver. Now you can look at them coming back next year reloaded with someone like T. Higgins to pair with Rashee Rice, to pair with Travis Kelce, to pair with Pacheco. You had injuries. Pacheco wasn't 100%. Like I said, the offensive line was hurt, but it's just crazy that not only do they win, but they go back to back. Not only do they win, but they go to Baltimore, beat the Ravens, and they punted 6 times in the second half. This is not how it was supposed to be. We had performances like Lamar Jackson's season, Josh Allen's resurgence at the end of the year. We had the Miami Dolphins offense for big chunks of the season. The AFC was not supposed to go to the Chiefs. It was supposed to go to the Bills. It was supposed to go to the Ravens. It was supposed to go to the Dolphins. All that. This is not how this is supposed to happen. We are not supposed to be sitting here saying, yeah, Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl. Went back to back, actually. Who is his supporting cast? Oh, Mecole Hardman and Justin Watson and Rashee Rice. What? I mean, Pacheco must have went off. No, actually, Mahomes was the leading rusher. Excuse me? Yeah, he was actually only 20 yards behind Christian McCaffrey. What? I mean, at some points in sports or life or whatever, you have to just kind of tip your cap to greatness. You have to tip your cap to the greatest player in the world at the sport in this moment, playing at the highest possible level at the peak of his powers. I mean, that's what we watched. It's like watching Usain Bolt break a record or Michael Phelps break a record or Tiger Woods, light up a golf course. Sometimes you just got to sit back and enjoy it. On the biggest stage of them all, I mean, it's just crazy. It really is crazy to what we watched Patrick Mahomes do this season.
The receiving core, whatever it is, was young and inconsistent. Travis Kelce looked old. The offensive tackles weren't great. Oh, wait, my bad. Last year was the year you were going to beat Kansas City because they had all those rookies on defense. And yet Mahomes goes 2 for 2 with 2 Super Bowls. And for large chunks of the game, Jalen Hurts was brilliant and outplayed him. And Brock Purdy was composed, and the Niners' defense was relentless.
I thought Purdy was pretty good, actually. I mean, I know we're talking a lot about Mahomes. I thought Purdy was good. I thought at times he was really good. At times he was extending the plays. At times he was doing things that you're watching him like, not a lot of quarterbacks can do this. Not a lot of quarterbacks could have made this throw or made this play. There was a play to George Kittle that ended up being called for a hold where Purdy escaped. He rolled around. He moved. He came back, threw it across the field. Great throw to Kittle. I mean, it didn't count, but I thought Purdy was fine. The moment I don't think was too big for him. No issues there. I thought McCaffrey was really, really good. Almost 200 yards of total offense. Everything was good. The only person like Kittle, Debo at times, Ayuk, they all kind of disappeared. But I thought San Francisco played a pretty good game. It's crazy that Kyle Shanahan has now been a part of 3 Super Bowls, 2 with the Niners, 1 with the Falcons. And his teams were up 10 points, 10 points, and 25 points. And he's 0-3. He's also been in the only 2 overtime games in Super Bowl history, lost both of them. Crazy stuff for Shanahan. I mean, it's just, you got to feel for him for sure. San Francisco, we'll see what they do as far as like retooling or what they add here and there. Like I said, I would guess Wilkes is probably gone. But KC, and very, very, very similar to New England, where there was years where Brady was making the most out of Deion Branch and David Givens and whoever else, and then he actually got really good receivers like the Edelmans and the Welkers and the Randy Mosses of the world, and you saw what he did. That's when the Patriots looked unstoppable. I think that we're about to see that out of Kansas City. If Kansas City goes and gets T. Higgins and Michael Thomas, or make a play for some of these receivers that could potentially be out there, that's when you're going to see like, okay, that's a 15-2 Kansas City team that just rolls through the playoffs and rolls through the Super Bowl. I mean, this is a team, if they keep Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, if they keep the nucleus and they add some big-time players, some big-time impact like offensive weapons, this is a team that could go 17-0. This is a team that could go undefeated because they just win. They're winners. They know how to win, and they're doing it with virtually nothing. So if you gave them studs and we got to see Patrick Mahomes with we're not going to see him with a Randy Moss type player like Brady had, but if he ends up with a player like Devontae Adams, if he ends up with a player like, DeAndre Hopkins or players like that, I mean, he's 28 years old. He's been in the league for 6 seasons. It's nuts. And the best is probably yet to come.
With young rookies last year and tackles that were so-so, running for his life, Mahomes did it again. He overcomes both and goes 2 for 2. It really is remarkable. I grew up seeing Bradshaw, and then it was guys like Marino and Elway and Montana and Young and Brady and Manning, and it didn't look like this. He beats Buffalo in Buffalo. He beats Baltimore in Baltimore. He wins in minus 27 degrees at home. And he beat a San Francisco team that really played great football.
Yeah, they did.
And I go back to what I said at the very beginning. When you play greats, you have effort and hope. And you just hope maybe this time they're not as great.
I feel like I'm listening to like a Christmas Carol or something.
Mahomes, Reed, Kelsey, all you can do is hope.
Let me say this about Andy Reid. I think Mahomes has something to do to catch Tom Brady. We made a video on the channel. Check it out about Mahomes versus Brady as far as the GOAT conversation. Mahomes still has some room for sure. I'm kind of ready to say Andy Reid might be the greatest coach of all time. I'm close. I woke up this morning. Woke up in the middle of the night. 4 a.m. cold sweat. First thing, all I could think about was, you know what? Maybe Andy Reid is the greatest coach to ever live. So I think it's time that we go ahead and anoint Andy Reid as the best coach to ever live. And he's not done either. He could tack on a couple more Super Bowls. Mahomes still has some room. He has some time to catch Brady. It's kind of funny. Someone in the comments recently was like, Patrick Mahomes hasn't played the competition that Tom Brady has had. My, how people have forgotten what the AFC East was like for Tom Brady's career. Y'all remember some of the Dolphins teams, some of the Bills teams, the Jets teams that Brady was playing 8 times a year, or 6 times a year, I guess. I mean, the AFC East was a complete joke. You look at who he played in the Super Bowl: Jake Delhomme, Eli Manning a couple times, Donovan McNabb, Nick Foles. Let's not forget, okay? Let's not forget that, Brady. I don't know where and when that narrative took off, that Brady's level of competition was greater than Patrick Mahomes's. I mean, that's wild. That's the first time I've heard that one. And it gave me a little chuckle. So those narratives are already being built out. These random defense narratives for either Brady or Mahomes or vice versa. And as far as Kelsey, I think the conversation is Kelsey or Gronk. And I think right now they're probably equal. I would say right now, if Kelsey retired, I would say him and Gronk are exactly equal. I think I have to look at the numbers. I think Gronk probably won more. I think the numbers probably now Kelsey might have better numbers, but they're probably close. They're probably right there. So you could probably score that one even. I think Brady still has Mahomes. He has the more wins, the better numbers, but Mahomes has a lot more time. So it's nuts that we're only a few years away from the Patriots dynasty. We're not that far away from what Brady was doing in New England. And the fact that now we have basically a mirror image of, is this the best coach ever? Is this the best quarterback ever? Is this the best tight end ever? I mean, it's the exact same thing. And those are the conversations. If you're talking about greatest quarterback to ever live, you're talking Brady or Mahomes, and then there's a huge gap. If you were still someone saying Joe Montana, or if you're still someone saying Terry Bradshaw, or if you're still someone saying Johnny Unitas, or Dan Marino, or John Elway, get a clue. Wake up, Peter Pan. That ain't it. I got bad news for you. That ain't it. All right, we can go ahead and get the Steve Youngs out of there. We can go ahead and get Fran Tarkenton out of there. There's two people. It's Mahomes and Brady, and then there's a huge gap. And then you can have your conversation of who's third between, Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees and Brett Favre or some of those guys. But Joe Montana, I guess, could probably be thrown in there for 3. He could be in the conversation. But there is Brady and Mahomes, and then a huge gap, and then you have basically 3 through 10. Same thing as the NBA. You have LeBron and Jordan, huge gap. Then you have a bunch of guys between 3 and 10. Coaches, probably a conversation between Walsh, Belichick, Reed. Those two haven't separated themselves enough, I don't think, from some of the great old coaches, but they're well on their way. They're well on their way to being, those are the only 2 options.
And that's not good enough. So let's talk Brock Purdy, who I have said, and I view it as a compliment for the kid. He's good. Special wins these games. Ask yourself yesterday, who was really great for San Francisco?
Christian McCaffrey.
Bosa, Christian McCaffrey. I thought Fred Warner. They were great. Brock Purdy was good.
All right, let me push back on this because I know what he's about to say. I mean, he's basically said it the entire video. I don't think you have to have a mercurial talent at quarterback if the rest of your team is as good as San Francisco is. Brock Purdy doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't have to be. I would compare Brock Purdy's situation to Russell Wilson's when he was in Seattle. Russell Wilson had elite defense. He had Marshawn Lynch. He had a really good coach, good playmakers. His job was to be good when called upon, but otherwise just kind of run the machine. The Seahawks didn't need Russell Wilson to be Patrick Mahomes to win the Super Bowl or to go to the Super Bowl. They didn't need that, right? I think that's the same as Purdy. Purdy has to be able to be good in the moments he's called upon. Third downs, extending the play, stuff, just like Russell. At moments, Russell was unbelievable. But did he have to be what Patrick Mahomes is for the Chiefs for the Seahawks to be good? No. No, he did not. Brock Purdy needs Christian McCaffrey to be really good. Or the Niners need Christian McCaffrey to be really good. They need the defense to be really good. They need Joey Bosa to be really good. They need Fred Warner to be really good. They need Drake Greenlaw to be really good. That's what they need. The 49ers are built a little differently than the Chiefs. It's very lazy to say, well, the Niners lost because Brock Purdy wasn't as good as Patrick Mahomes. It's like, well, I mean, if that's the case, and no team is ever going to beat the Chiefs because no quarterback's ever as good as Patrick Mahomes, right? So Purdy was good enough. I think Purdy's fine. If I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan, I'm not worried about the quarterback position at all. At all. I'm very confident in Brock Purdy. I'm very confident in what he can do. I'm confident in the team. You could have won. No doubt. Run it back. Retool, get some depth. They have some injuries. The safety. He'll be back. He's a big deal for the Niners. So, if I'm them, I'm shoring up some positions, moving cap around, getting depth at some places. Beyond that, roll it back. They're certainly good enough to win. So, the idea that Brock Purdy's holding them back, I don't think it's the case. I don't. Now, would I pay Brock Purdy $200 million? Would I pay him some huge contract? No. Because y'all know the rules. Same with Seattle. Y'all know the rules. You have to have one of two things to win the Super Bowl. Quarterback on a rookie contract, quarterback playing at an MVP level. Right now, they have a quarterback on a rookie contract. That's a big boom of why Brock Purdy worked for this team. Once Seattle paid Russell Wilson, very difficult for them to hold on to everybody else. If I was San Francisco, I wouldn't pay Brock Purdy. I would obviously pay him more than the $40,000 a year, whatever he's making right now. But he's not. I wouldn't make him my keystone $200 million quarterback. But I don't think he's the reason they didn't win. So let's see what Colin says. But I think it's a bit of a reach.
I know you want him to be a star, but again, he's a kid and the last guy picked. On third down, the Super Bowl winning down, he was 3 for 12. Against the blitz, he was bad, a 77 passer rating, and completed less than 50%.
We had a video on the channel where we defended Brock Purdy against Ryan Clark of ESPN, and a lot of that was that Brock Purdy looks unassuming. The idea that he's unassuming, he's smaller in stature, he's got a baby face, he doesn't have a gunslinger arm, all that stuff, even though the stats show that he does push the ball downfield. It's how insane is it that Colin's like, he's just a kid? What's the age difference between Brock Purdy and Joe Burrow when they were in the Super Bowl? I know Purdy's younger, I would think, but it can't be that much younger when Burrow was in his Super Bowl versus Purdy in his. So the idea, like, who was saying like, oh man, well, the Bengals didn't win because Joe Burrow is just a kid? You didn't hear that. What did you hear? You heard Joe Cool, right? You heard you heard a completely different narrative. Why? Because Joe Burrow is cool. Joe Burrow is cool. He looks like a quarterback. All that stuff. Brock Purdy is not cool. He doesn't look like your prototypical quarterback. So all of a sudden, the narrative is that he's a kid. He's a kid. He's like that. That is just such a crazy thing to say. That somehow Brock Purdy was just. He's like it's like I'm watching a Disney movie. He's like Henry Rowan Gardner in Rookie of the Year. He's just a 12-year-old who somehow is the starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. That's not the case. Brock Purdy is not just a kid. He's the starting quarterback of the 49ers. He's 13-4 or something like that as a starter. Played really well in the Super Bowl. Had them in a position to win it. I'd feel fine if I was San Francisco with Brock Purdy.
He couldn't get the ball to Debo or George Kittle or Brandon Ayuk. He was able to get the ball to the person he handed it off to. He had a chance to win this game. It was 3rd and 5, 16 all. He makes that first down. They bleed the clock, and they're probably Super Bowl champions.
If Christian McCaffrey doesn't fumble in the first possession, they're probably Super Bowl champions. If the kicker makes the extra point, they're probably Super Bowl champions. So if Harrison Butker doesn't make a 57-yard NFL record-setting field goal, they're probably Super Bowl champions. A whole lot happened. And he got the ball to the guy he handed it off to. Chris McCaffrey had, 15 carries in the game before overtime? I mean, it's not like he had 28 carries. He had 15 carries. Then they go to OT and he ends up with whatever it was, 19, 20 carries. But the idea that he just turned around and handed the ball off, I don't know. I mean, maybe I wasn't watching the same game, but.
Mahomes made that play over and over. Purdy had a shot and it didn't work. They gave the ball to Mahomes with 2 timeouts and about $1.50 left. It was over. Purdy deserves credit for being composed in the first half. I was impressed. But despite dominating the first half, the only touchdown pass thrown by San Francisco was by a wide receiver. Purdy is good, but good didn't beat Mahomes yesterday. Good was blown out by Lamar Jackson earlier this year. Good was blown out by Joe Burrow this year.
But this argument, again, like the idea that you have to be a great quarterback to beat Mahomes, right? Well, the Ravens had the MVP at quarterback at home, and what happened? Exactly. Like, what have we seen with Josh Allen against the Chiefs? Like, that is not a guaranteed recipe either. It's not just great quarterback beats Patrick Mahomes. Or, like, Brock Purdy took Patrick Mahomes to overtime in the Super Bowl. You're talking a fumble here, a missed field goal here, a missed extra point here, a stop on 4th down here. You're talking all those variables went into this game. It is not as easy. If you look back at who beat Tom Brady, Nick Foles, Eli Manning. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to happen. It takes special things to happen to win a Super Bowl. Good quarterbacks, great quarterbacks, whatever, they'll get you there. But then there's a lot of other variables that come into actually winning the game. I was impressed with Purdy. This was a very big moment. I would not have been surprised at all if he would have floundered, if he would have looked like, man, this guy, they might need to turn to Darnold. But Purdy didn't look like that. I thought he looked pretty good, all things considered. I think he was fine. I could hear the argument that, if I remember correctly, I think Burrow was pretty bad for the Bengals at the end there. I don't think Burrow was great during their Super Bowl run the last couple of games. I might be wrong on that, but if memory serves me correctly, I think he was getting a lot of hype, but his actual play was not very good. I know he missed some receivers at the end of the Super Bowl and all that, but I would say him and Purdy are pretty similar. Purdy might have actually played better in this Super Bowl than Burrow played in his Super Bowl. Again, I'm shooting from the hip here, but someone double check me. See how Burrow played in that Super Bowl run, in the Super Bowl that they lost to the Rams, and then the playoff games leading up to it. But I would think Purdy's probably, if you're looking at just strictly, performance, I think Purdy's right there. Now, do I think Burrow is more of a franchise quarterback than Purdy? Yeah. Purdy is managing this system, and that's fine. That is totally okay. We don't need him. The San Francisco 49ers don't need him to be this franchise-defining MVP winning, which he was in the running for MVP this year, this MVP winning quarterback. If he can run their system and manage their offense and manage the team and do what he's got to do to this level with these numbers, fine. I'm cool with that. No problem with that at all. We looked at the numbers. He's not putting up game manager numbers. He's putting up numbers comparable with some of the best seasons we have seen from a quarterback. His numbers this year were just as good, if not better in most categories, than Aaron Rodgers' last MVP season. So I don't care how you get the results. Purdy's getting them. So if you hear this narrative right here, that Purdy's holding them back, they need something different at quarterback, whatever, I'd push back on that.
Those, along with Josh Allen, are the best quarterbacks in football, and he's not beating them. Ask yourself this. San Francisco lost momentum in the third quarter. No Niner fan would deny that.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, why? What happened?
Because Shanahan went away from Christian McCaffrey. Shanahan went away from what was working. Tale as old as time. Shanahan goes away from McCaffrey. They put themselves into 3rd and 10s, 3rd and long. They don't get him. There's a lot of 3 and outs in there. They let the Chiefs hang around. That's it. If he sticks to what was working, if he sticks to keeping McCaffrey involved, maybe different. So that's why they lost momentum.
Because they stopped giving it to Christian McCaffrey.
Yes.
The soul of the team.
Their best player.
Carries.
Yes.
And inexplicably, they let Brock Purdy run the offense 11 dropbacks. And suddenly, against the relentless Steve Spagnuolo blitzing defense, they gave Kansas City the momentum.
Yes.
Special win.
Well, I don't understand why that is the negative. No one is saying that Christian McCaffrey isn't the best player on the team. No one is saying that he isn't the best player. Christian McCaffrey is special. Christian McCaffrey is mercurial. He is an MVP level guy. He was having an all-time performance in the Super Bowl. Give him the ball. I mean, this is not this isn't brain surgery. If you have a talent like that, that is your offense. That is the best part of your offense. So why is it a negative to keep getting that player involved? Same with the Cowboys back in the 90s. In this situation, I would have said, hey, Dallas, feed Emmitt Smith. He's the best player on the team. He's the MVP. Keep running him. I don't want to see Troy Aikman drop back 11 straight times. That's it. I mean, this isn't rocket science. This is about to blow y'all's mind. This is going to blow Colin's mind too. Not every team, the best player on that team is the quarterback. Some teams, their best player is a wide receiver or a running back or a tight end. And in spots like this, those teams need to lean on those players. For the Dolphins, if the Dolphins are in this spot, I'm doing whatever I can to get Tyreek Hill the ball. I don't care if it's screen passes. I don't care if it's sweeps. I don't care what it is. Get him the ball as soon as possible. I'm not letting Tua sling it to Mike Gesicki or whoever. I'm not trying to win with style points. Get the ball to your best player. Easy. I mean, simple. You know? It's just crazy where it's like Colin's acting like he hit the ultimate trump card there, the ultimate like checkmate when he said that Christian McCaffrey was the best player on the offense. Yeah, brother, we're watching the game. We've watched this all season long. Like we know. No doubt. He's the man. He is the man. Christian McCaffrey confirmed good. Confirmed good. I think everyone would agree there. So yeah, if you're up 10, I think it's pretty normal for everyone to expect you to feed the best player on the team at that position versus letting Brock Purdy throw the ball 12 times. That doesn't discredit Purdy. There's no negative there. If Patrick Mahomes was the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers and the Niners are up 10 in the Super Bowl, I would still be saying run Christian McCaffrey. I wouldn't be saying, well, we're up 10, but let's let Patrick Mahomes throw it like 11 straight times. Because he's really good. You know, he's an MVP kind of player. I would still want them to hand the ball off to McCaffrey.
Super Bowls. That's why Brady and Mahomes have trophy rooms. Let's be honest. If Mahomes had this skill group, Debo, Kittle, Ayuk have bigger afternoons, and it's probably a rout.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy was...
again, guys, no one is saying Brock Purdy is Patrick Mahomes. You don't have to be. The teams are built differently. You know, it's not a trade-off situation. Like, yeah, Mahomes is better. The Niners would be better if they had Patrick Mahomes. Sure. But the Niners can win with Brock Purdy because of how they are built and Brock Purdy's contract. There's other variables.
Was good. But against Mahomes and Burrow and Lamar, that's not it. That's not getting the Lombardi. Good kid, could get better.
Good kid. I think the Niners are so much better than the Bengals. Like if this would have been the Niners and the Bengals, and Joe Burrow was on the Bengals, and this was, you know, everything was different, the Niners are probably smoking the Bengals. And then what's the conversation here? They're just a much better built team. Like the idea that, oh well, if Brock Purdy played Joe Burrow's winning, and that Brock Purdy's just a good kid, that's insane to me.
I think we're close to the ceiling. But it was Mahomes late that kept converting time and time again without close to the level of skill people. Hi, everybody.
Boom. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Super Bowl reaction. Good stuff. Fun season. Fun Super Bowl. Great performances. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. I'll be down there reacting, replying. Thank you very much for watching. Another season in the books. I will see you in the next video.